What's up, everybody? This is Bobby Warren with PlayingWithPizza.com. We're doing a reaction video of sorts today. I'm also kind of being a little bit lazy, if I gotta be honest. I made another Chicago deep dish pizza. I don't know if you've seen my Chasing Lou series, which is all about trying to replicate Lou Malnati's deep dish pizza. But my wife really likes deep dish, and so, she'd been craving some, so one day one day this week, she was, driving a friend to work, and I just said, I'm gonna try to make a deep dish pizza." So I did a search, and I came across, a recipe from, I hope I'm getting this right, Omnivorous Adam. And I started watching it, and I
Like unnecessarily
you know
uptight
what? I
about,
think I'm gonna try this. But where the lazy part comes in is I didn't wanna get out all my gear and shoot video to make it. So, what I figured I'd do, well, I'll do a reaction to Adam's video, and then I'll intersperse, photos of my pizza making process, what I did and what I did a little bit differently. So we arrive here today at this reaction video and my take on making deep dish pizza. And I'm by no means an expert, but you know what? This channel is playingwithpizza.com, and we play around with pizza. We don't have to be an expert. We just have to love pizza and enjoy experimenting with it. So here's the interesting side note before we even get started is as my wife was driving our friend to work. I don't know how they got on the subject, but she was telling him how she really enjoys deep dish pizza, and she's telling him how I make pizza. I got my pizza blog, playingwithpizza.com, my YouTube channel, youtube.com/playingwithpizza, and how she really likes Chicago deep dish, but I hadn't made it in a while. So I don't know if that was God nudging me and say, "Hey, you need to make some, son." But anyway, I decided to make it while she's driving our friend to work and having this conversation. And so she comes back, and she was excited to find out that I was making her some deep dish pizza. All right, with all that introductory matter out of the way, let's watch this video here.
one of those foods that some people get really uptight about, like unnecessarily uptight about.
Okay, I'm not getting uptight, but all the hand movement I could do without. But to Adam's credit, YouTube people will tell you, move your hands, let people see your hands move. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's motion on the screen and this is just a talking head. But at any rate, the hand gestures are driving me crazy. But YouTube creators say, move your hands.
Which style is best, which toppings are best, which pizzeria is best.
That is true. That is true. We all have our favorites. We all have our favorites, and we're going to die on that hill. And interestingly enough, it's usually the pizza shop that we grew up eating as a kid. But let's go.
Whether it's a lighthearted debate amongst buddies or, a more serious debate turned street fight, conflict is almost sure to arise. But not today. Today, we're all gonna be friends. In the city where I'm from, Chicago, two styles reign supreme. Those are thin tavern style and deep dish. As the title of the video states, today we're gonna be talking about the latter, Chicago style deep dish pizza.
All right. He talked about the thin style. I was watching Brian Lagerstrom's video, and I believe he said that thin crust is more popular in Chicago, or at least there are more thin crust pizzerias than deep dish pizzerias. But I never knew that. I just always knew Chicago deep dish. So deep dish has a good marketing teams.
So at the end of the day, whether you think it's casserole or not, around these parts, deep dish is pizza. And of course, pizza comes in many different forms with many different toppings. Today, I've chosen to make a classic Italian sausage pie. But if that's not your thing, feel free to explore the endless expanse of other pizza topping options.
Like I did.
Okay, let's start by making the deep dish dough. It's sort of more like a pie or a pastry crust rather than an actual dough.
Yeah, this is something I was talking with a friend from church, Sean Allen, and he had worked at a Pizzeria Uno franchise that made the pies the old school way. And this is something he said, it's somewhere between like a pie crust and a pizza dough. And that's kind of interesting.
You'll see. To make our dough, we'll need bread flour, olive oil, instant yeast, salt, and a bit of cornmeal.
Now, when I was researching for my Chasing Lou series, trying to make Lou Malnati's deep dish, people said that they didn't use cornmeal, rather the corn taste came from corn oil. So what I did, I didn't use cornmeal. Instead, I used semolina flour. I had it, but I just wanted to use the semolina and just see how that did.
Cornmeal's optional, but it does give the crust a nice little extra oomph. In the bowl of a stand mixer or any other bowl, add in all the dry ingredients first. That is 250 grams of bread flour, 25 grams of cornmeal, 5 grams of kosher salt, and 3 grams of instant yeast. Mix that dry stuff around until it's combined and then pour in 75 grams of olive oil and mix again.
Okay, here is where I deviated again. Well, I should say that when I made my Lou Malnati's pizza, I followed the recipe and with a couple of revisions or modifications from Perfect Pizza at Home. And one of the things that they did, they put sugar in the dough. There is no sugar in this dough. And I think if I were to make this recipe again, I would add probably malted barley syrup just because I have it, or I would put sugar in it because I like the Perfect Pizza at Home crust a little better. Now he's getting ready to drop in some olive oil. I did not use olive oil in mine. Again, going from some research that I did, and I can't remember if it was the Pizza Making Forum or if it was Real Deep Dish Pizza website. But instead of olive oil, so he's calling for 75 grams. I used 40 grams of corn oil and 35 grams of buttery popcorn topping, not pizza topping, buttery popcorn topping. So that constituted my 75 grams of oil. I did not use olive oil at all. And like I said, that was a tip I read somewhere.
To coat the dry ingredients in the olive oil before we add water to stop the formation of gluten. Gluten formation would just blow things up and make the dough rise, which is not what we want. We need a sturdy yet flaky crust.
Now this is interesting because New York style pizza is my favorite, and typically you add the oil at the end, not at the beginning, precisely because you don't want to stop the gluten formation. So that's kind of an interesting twist here.
The oil and dry ingredients are roughly combined and look all crumbly like so. Pour in 100 grams of warm water and mix until a shaggy dough forms. Cover with plastic wrap and let this all rest or auto-lease for 20 minutes.
Now he says let this auto-lease for 20 minutes. This is not a true auto-lease. An auto-lease would involve just the flour, the water, and the yeast, no salt and no oil. Because what's happening with the auto-lease is you're letting the gluten build up. So this is technically letting your dough rest. It's not an auto-lease.
This step is what's going to give our dough a chance to hydrate. After 20 minutes has passed, snap your dough bowl onto the stand mixer and using the dough hook attachment, knead the dough on speed 2 for 4 minutes.
You know what? I wouldn't do this. I put it in the stand mixer. I got a nice KitchenAid, a 6-quart KitchenAid, and it did absolutely no good. there's not a lot of dough in there. So what happens is your dough hook just ends up pushing the dough to the side. I ended up just taking it off the stand mixer, throwing it on the counter, and just kneading it for a few minutes. This dough is nice and soft. It's a moist dough. It's not a sticky dough. It's moist and eat pliable. And forget the stand mixer.
It's totally fine if you need to stop the mixer
See?
to push down any dough that wants to climb up. All good. After 4 minutes, cut the motor and let the dough rest for another 4 minutes. And
Look at it. I mean, the dough's just hanging out on the edge, so don't even use the stand mixer.
then continue with one more kneading sesh for an additional 4 minutes. That probably sounds confusing, but giving the dough a chance to rest will help it come together easier. Just remember 4, 4, and 4.
So if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. Knead for 4 minutes, let it rest, and knead for another 4 minutes. But don't do it in the stand mixer. It just doesn't need it.
Stop the mixer when something that sort of resembles a dough forms, then dump it onto the counter. No flour necessary though, because this dough's pretty fatty.
So you see how when he took it out, that dough looked like a brain, like all the different cracks and crevices in it. The guys from Perfect Pizza at Home, or the guy from Perfect Pizza at Home, said try to seal up all those cracks when you get it into a dough ball, which that's something I try to do.
Fatty dough, bro. Just do your best to round out the dough, then plop.
Talking about fatty dough, because I use that buttery topping, it's sort of congealed in the dough, and you can see those kind of specks of fat just hanging out throughout the crust.
It back into the covered mixing bowl and set it aside. Let it rest for 2 hours. So yeah, this dough is high in fat and low in hydration, which makes it eat sort of more like a biscuit. The fat also helps wick away any moisture from the meat, cheese, and tomato sauce, which is crucial for this heavy hitter. Use the time it takes for the dough to rest to get your other ingredients sorted. So deep dish pizza calls for a chunkier than usual tomato sauce, and to achieve ultimate chunkage, I like to use these San Marzano tomatoes.
This brand that he's showing, they're not true San Marzano tomatoes. San Marzano tomatoes are grown in a specific region in Italy in volcanic ash that was from Mount Vesuvius. So if you're going to use true San Marzanos, look for the initials DOP, which talks about the designated place of origin. I think Cento uses the word certified, and there's some debate whether they are DOP or not. This brand right here, to the best of my knowledge, the tomatoes are grown in California. Now, they might be from San Marzano seeds, but they're not DOP San Marzano. And I don't doubt that they're a good quality tomato, right? I know a lot of people like this particular brand, but it's a California brand and not DOP. And like I said, supposedly the volcanic ash makes the San Marzano tomatoes a little bit sweeter. Now, I use a lot of tomato products out of California that are produced by the Stanislaw Company. They make an excellent whole peeled tomato, like these are whole peeled right here, and they're grown in California. Nothing wrong. I wouldn't call these San Marzanos. I would call them San Marzano style tomatoes.
Don't eye roll at these canned beauties. These are super high quality, whole peeled tomatoes that are picked at the peak of their season, and they're delicious. And yes, I prefer to use whole tomatoes so I can...
You see at the end of that tomato, that's where kind of the stem comes into the plant. I hate to say it, but I like to pick them out because I don't want to get those big bits in my pizza. But you do you.
Fully control the final texture of the sauce, but feel free to use pre-crushed tomatoes if that's all you have or all you can find. Just stay away from tomato puree or any thin tomato sauces. It's just going to be too runny for this type of pizza.
I really don't like what he's doing here. He's going to crush the tomatoes and he's going to drain all the juice out, because when I have a New York style pizza, I like to have I call it a watery sauce. Maybe you call it a juicy sauce. I don't like the fact that he's going to crush and drain. But the last time I made Lou Malnati's pizza, I had way too much water. So I understand it. In theory, I don't like it, but I totally understand draining away some of that liquid.
Blitz up the maters until they're just broken apart. I really dig my immersion stick blender for this, but a few pulses in a Regi blender should do the trick too. Set a bowl under a strainer and pour over the now crushed tomatoes. Just set the juice aside for Bloody Marys or Bolognese or something. Then pour those drained tomatoes into a bowl. And I should mention, I used about 2 whole cans of tomatoes for this.
I would put some of the juice back in. To me, that's just a little bit too thick. Now, incidentally, when I made mine, I was using a Stanislaw product. It was a fully prepared pizza sauce. So I didn't go through all this. Again, I was just looking for ease. That's what I had. I got a bunch of number 10 cans tomatoes in the front room. I got Stanislaw heavy tomato puree. I got Red Pack crushed tomatoes, which Charlie Anderson likes. And then I got some San Benito heavy pizza sauce with fresh basil. I believe Lou Malnati's buys their tomatoes from San Benito, packages or cans the tomatoes under their own label. Because they use San Benito, I got some. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
You might have some leftover sauce, but how are you going to complain about that? To the tomatoes, add salt, sugar, dried oregano, red wine vinegar, and fish sauce.
I'd leave out the vinegar and the fish sauce. If you're going to put fish sauce in, why don't you just use anchovies? And I'm not going to use fish sauce or anchovies, but you might as well do it if you want fish sauce in there.
The fish sauce is optional, but a dash of it plays very well with the umami-rich tomatoes.
Speaking of anchovies, some people in my family, I come from an Italian family. My great-grandparents immigrated from Italy. They like anchovies. Like Uncle Joe loves anchovies on his pizza. And when I took a tour of Frank Pepe's Pizzeria Napolitana in New Haven, Connecticut, they put anchovies on their pizzas. Nah, ain't doing it. Not gonna do it.
There's really no need to cook this tomato mixture. It's going to cook and slightly reduce in the oven, so there's no...
As Vincenzo would say, bravo, Alan, bravo. Yeah, no need to cook the sauce. I don't like a prepared sauce. Even though the Stanislaw product I was using is considered a prepared sauce, doesn't taste like glue or paste. Bravo, Adam, bravo.
There's no need for that. Okay, cheese time. As for cheese, we got 2 types here. Those being whole milk mozzarella and part skim mozzarella, both in block form. The whole milk mozz will ensure that our cheese mixture is rich and creamy, while the part skim helps tame that whole milk, adding some texture and making things a little less greasy. Alright, just one more thing to talk about, our Italian sausage blend.
All right, before he gets to the sausage, I believe Pizzeria Uno, Giordano's, and Lou Malnati's all use sliced mozzarella instead of grated or shredded or grated mozzarella. So that's what I use. I happen to have some provolone, so I put on a layer of provolone, and then I put on a layer of mozzarella. Probably should have added more cheese, but it looked like a lot, but when it cooked, I didn't get that cheese pull that Adam's going to get.
Rush over this sausage recipe would be a shame, and while it does take some time, I think it's worth making.
Yeah, you should try, mixing up your own sausage. It's not really hard. I think I haven't looked at his recipe, but I can imagine the time that he's talking about is probably letting it sit and let all those spices and the pork, let those flavors meld. But you just have to go buy some ground pork, add some seasoning, boom, you got sausage. And if you're like me and you don't like fennel seed, you can leave the fennel out and still have a nice sausage.
If you're interested in making your own Italian sausage, I will provide a link to my video all about that. But if you'd like to skip over it, that's totally cool too. Lots of grocery stores sell bulk sausage now, but if you can't find that, simply just grab some pre-made Italian sausage and cut the meat out of the casings. A cool part about this pizza technique is that it's done in a cast iron skillet, so there's no need for any special deep dish pan here.
So I bought a deep dish pan. I saw it at Aldi and it was cheap. I think it was $4. That's what I cooked my Lou Malnati's pizza in. And this one I used my 10-inch cast iron skillet, and I can say that I like cooking in the cast iron skillet better than the deep dish pan. It came out so much easier. I don't know if it's because of the sloped edge or what.
I'm using this Lodge 10-inch cast iron pan, and I do prefer a 10-inch, but a 12-inch pan works fine too. You'll just need to spread everything out a little more when you're using a 12-inch pan. Butter crane. Grab a butter crane, aka just like a stick of butter, and rub the inside of the cast iron down. Really get the bottom and the walls. Don't skimp with the butter or your pizza could stick to the pan. Next is an homage to Pequod's Pizza, a famous deep dish spot here in Chicago. We're just going to sprinkle the bottom and the sides of the pan with crumbled Parmesan cheese. Some of the cheese will bake into the crust, giving the crust some nice additional browning and a beautiful crispy cheesy crunch.
All right, when I first saw him bust out that little ramekin, I thought he had breadcrumbs. I thought he was going to throw panko on there, and I'm like, no, don't do it. Then I saw it was grated cheese, or what he calls cheese crumbles, and I thought, that's a nice idea. So I did what he did. I buttered the cast iron skillet, and I put in the Parmesan cheese. I thought that was a great idea because when you make a pan pizza or like a Detroit style pizza, what happens is the cheese on the edge melts, gets between the crust and the pan, and it crisps up. And this is called the frico. And it is such a flavor explosion. It is so good. And that's what I was hoping that this grated cheese would do. But it really didn't enhance the flavor at all. I was afraid to use more because I didn't know if the crust would just stick to the pan or what. And when I asked my wife, Wendy, I said, did the cheese come across in the crust? And she said, no, she really didn't pick up on those cheese notes. It's a good idea, but it didn't work for me. If I try it again, like I was just using the cheap grated cheese in a plastic tube. If I do it again, maybe I get some good Pecorino Romano or some Parmesan cheese and get a wedge and grate it myself. Maybe it'll have a stronger, better flavor.
2 hours has passed. Plop your dough onto the counter. Now we need to press it out so that it just fits into the cast iron. Use the pads of your fingers and the palms of your hands to gently press and pull the dough into a large circle.
This dough is easy to work with. You see how he rolled it up on a rolling pin? A technique that I learned when I was touring Frank Pepe's Pizza in New Haven was they fold the dough in half, pick it up and move it on the pizza peel. So I just folded the dough in half, picked it up and plopped it in the pan.
Flip the dough as necessary to make sure that you're getting a really nice even circle. I would refrain from trying any fancy pizza tosses here because our dough isn't as stretchy as a usual za dough, but I mean,
yeah, you are not throwing this dough unless you're going to try to use it as a frisbee. Do not do it.
Maybe you know something I don't, so have at it. Now we build. Start by laying in our freshly shredded mozzarella cheese.
Look at that. Look at that cheese mountain right there. That is like, when you see the cheese pull on this pizza, that is so much cheese. That's unbelievable.
Pop it all in, and it looks like a lot because it is. Next, squash the sausage by hand to about 1/3 of an inch or 8.5.
What he's doing there is basically layering down this sausage disc. It is one whole piece, right? And I don't like that. At Malnati's, they just put down a little bit of sausage at a time. And so it creates this space between the sausage. So there's a lot of sausage on a Lou Malnati's pizza, but it doesn't cover it like this disc. I'm not sure if they do it this way at Gino's East or not. When you're going to see here in a little bit, the sausage is all going to move as one piece, and I really don't like it. I would throw it down in bits. For our pizza, I didn't have sausage on hand, so I used pepperoni and bacon. I bought some bacon product because I didn't want to sit there and make bacon bits out of the bacon I had, so it was just easier to buy the bacon bits.
Millimeters thinness, then lay it over the top of the cheese. Now plop on our tomato sauce until you can't see the sausage anymore, but also remember that you don't have to use the exact proportions that I've included in this recipe. If you want less sauce, that's up to you, Cap. Finish with a little more Parmesan crumble and
all right, like I said, I used a prepared sauce. That pizza right there, if you like deep dish, that looks good right there.
And then let's pop that straight into a preheated 425 degree Fahrenheit, 218 degree Celsius oven for 35 to 40 minutes.
So I cooked mine for 35 minutes and that was enough for me.
When the timer dings, remove that pizza from the oven and let it cool for 10 or so minutes before doing anything. Now you must choose a path. You can either cut your pizza directly in the cast iron, but then you run the risk of scratching your cast iron and dulling your knives. The other option is to remove the pizza from the cast iron hole and cut it out of the pan.
I like this method right here. There's just not a lot of room to work around, and I definitely don't like using knives in pans or sheet pans. I like this method right here. The pizza came out easier out of the cast iron pan than it did my deep dish pan.
I've had the sort of a mixture of both. I prefer to remove the pizza from the cast iron, slice it up, then return the pizza to the cast iron. Serving this in a cast iron pan is cleaner, keeps the pizza warmer, and it's just easier to transport. But I mean, who's gonna deny the natural beauty of a naked deep dish pizza?
Look at that cheese pull. I did not get that with mine. I did not get that. But look at that. Oh, man.
This is a cross-section from a chilled test pizza. It was a bit heavy on the sausage, but I think it's a cool shot and useful to sort of see the anatomy of a pie. Because our crust is made from a high-fat dough, it can repel water and stand up to the sauce in the
See, I don't like the way that sausage looks, this one monolithic piece. You know, break it up, break it up.
moisture, which is crucial for this type of za. Serve this stunner piece by piece with a fork and a knife. And I know it seems weird, but trust me, a fork and a knife is how it's done. Alright, so I gotta keep it real. I was never really a big fan of deep dish growing up, but my entire family absolutely loves it, so it was always in the house for special occasions. And though I do still prefer a thin crust tavern style pizza, you know, deep dish has managed to elbow its way into my heart.
I'm gonna stop his video there. I'm the same way. I'm really not a big fan of deep dish pizza. My wife loves it, so I'm gonna make it for her. I mean, that's it. I much prefer a New York style or a New Haven style, which they call Apizza, Apizza, not a pizza, Apizza. But anyway, I really liked his dough. It was easy to work with, and like I said, if I do it again, I am going to add some sugar to the dough. Only thing I would do different, and I'd put the grated cheese again, but I'd do the crumbles. And what I liked about this was a same day dough. Perhaps it would be better if I left it in the fridge overnight, but that's not what I wanted to do. Anyway, Adam, thank you for a wonderful video. Thank you for teaching me another way to do deep dish pizza. And so, like I said, my wife liked the pizza, and as my grandma Bandandola would say, manja, baba, manja. Everybody, don't Wang Chung tonight. Everybody, ciao. Hey, thanks for watching this. If you like the content here, I'd appreciate if you subscribe. You know, there are other videos you can watch too. Normally, YouTube will give you the option to select another video to watch here in the end screen and a chance to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it if you subscribe, like, comment, hit the notification bell so you always know when I'm coming on. And thanks so much for watching. Ciao.